Welcome to The Force Awakens. My name is Diz, aka David Zamet. Let's get on with the show with the news, the views, the reviews, and interviews. Making news this time around the unfortunate passing of Marsha Lucas, the ex-wife of George Lucas, and the original editor of one of the original editors of the original film Star Wars, The Star Wars, or Star Wars, or A New Hope, whatever you want to look at it as, Episode 4, has passed away. More about that in the interview section of this particular episode. My regards to her and her family and friends at this stage. Anyway, to more news. The Mandalorian Grogu is in cinemas now. We are coming into its second week, and the drop is looking like it's going to be more than a 60% drop, which is not the best news for any type of film, especially a Star Wars film. So we're looking at more than 60% drop for The Mandalorian and Grogu. So that's making news. And that is the news for this time around. Let's now get into views. Views is either my viewpoint or a story idea that I have within Star Wars. This time around, it's going to be a story idea view that I have, and we're going to be talking a little bit briefly about Starfighter again. That's Starfighter, that's the big film coming out next year for Star Wars. The one that we are, as hardcore Star Wars fans, are really looking forward to. And that comes out May next year. It's the next installment. It's set, the actual storyline is set 5 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker Episode 9. It's not officially Episode 10 as yet, in my opinion. I think it's a secret Episode 10, but it's my opinion. My story idea is, how do you have this story have not, it's said it's not a prequel, it's not a sequel or anything like that, and it's just a fresh new take on Star Wars. It's a launching pad, you could say, of a story. How do you have that be relevant in a galaxy that just had Rise of Skywalker Episode 9, which really had the whole galaxy come together and just come and destroy the Emperor and the evil side once and for all? It's going to take a Mandalorian pill. How do you do this? The only way, if you get a map of the Star Wars galaxy, of all the possible planets and things like that, you need to go way out in an area that the part of the galaxy has no idea at all about what was going on in the known galaxies that we know. You've just got to go way out. It's the only way to have this story be absolutely fresh, and it's going to have a new sort of feel, and that's how you do it. That's how I would do it if I'm creating a brand new story. You've got to just really take on the unknown, and it's not the unknown regions, but you could say it has to be beyond the unknown regions. It's the only way to make this film original, fresh, and a brand new start for Star Wars, if that is their intention. Because 5 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker Episode 9 is a bit too close for comfort in what had just happened in that particular part of the story. Unless they are planning to retcon the sequel trilogy, which is no actual news. It's just a thought that I just had now, and thoughts that we may all have right now. But anyway, that's what needs to be done. That's my story idea for this time around. Let's get now into reviews. Reviews this time around is the second week drop of the Mandalorian Grogu film. What is the outcome of this and what I think. I think it's actually. I think personally, the review it's going to be drop is largely because the energy for Star Wars is still at a low, and the film that we got is good, not great, is good, and it's just not enough to sort of have the repeat viewing by regular fans. Now, I've seen it twice, but I've got to admit, for me to push even to a third or fourth time is going to be a bit of an ask, just because my enthusiasm is not there. But I think this enthusiasm is really coming from the dislike of Star Wars and as a collective, and the continued repeated, notion of this just is not good. It's not that bad. Star Wars is just not that bad. That's my opinion. But everyone has their own opinion. I understand. But I think the review of out of 10 for a second week having more than a 60% drop is pretty on the mark. I can't rate it. Well, sorry, I can't really rate it out of 10. But so my review is that I think it's expected. I think it's also a possible plan for Disney and or Lucasfilm and or Star Wars to have to sort of really go from the depths of plain to absolute euphoria, which is 50th anniversary next year, and also the Starfighter film. It could be the calm before the storm. It does play off well that way if it really works in the form of it being a massive year for Star Wars. But one film won't save the energy of Star Wars at the moment. It needs to sort of keep going. But anyway, my review, yes. So I think it is expected that it's going to have a 60% drop. I think the film is good for the reason that it really doesn't have over repeated viewing. I would see a film that I love, 5 plus 6, even more times if I had that time and, extra cash to rock that. But I just think, yeah, it's sort of pretty much on track to how it's meant to play out. Whether that's deliberate on Disney or Star Wars, I don't know. But the film that we got is good. And it's definitely worth seeing on the big screen. It's definitely repeat value, maybe a couple of times. But that's my review for this time around. Now let's get into the interviews. Interviews usually is the comments on my last particular video. Interviews can also be just interviews of all sorts, including interviewing myself. Now, I want to sort of speak. So, Marsha Lucas, she was the ex-wife of George Lucas, and she was the main editor or a main editor for the original film and also Return of the Jedi. That was episode 6. So what did I think of her contribution? I thought she was definitely an unsung hero. To actually put the very first film together from start to finish. Just the idea of the film, just filming the film, just to create the effects, to create the creatures, to create the idea, to create the editing process is all part of it. And I think the editing process is the final part to really oversee the quality, the pacing, the rhythm, everything like that. And she really did have a massive influence in creating the story that we got, because the way she was able to edit that gave it a great rhythm of pacing to that film. And also, I think she did it again personally in Return of the Jedi. In my humble opinion, which is going to be disliked by some, out of the original trilogy, coming as a kid in 1980, it was the worst Star Wars film out of the three. For a kid, I would have been at that time about 8 years old. It was slow. It was a bit boring. I view it differently now. It has a very adult edge and stuff like that. I still don't think it's as high as a lot of people put it as, but that's my opinion and that's everyone else's opinion. But I think the energy within A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, which is sort of similar but and has its own variations, I think they're both done really well, especially in the editing process. The only part that I will say that in Return of the Jedi that was a little bit too close for comfort in editing, but it was probably what was available on film at that time and what you could do effects wise was, and this is a bit of a spoiler, the second Death Star when it exploded. I think the Millennium Falcon was a little bit close to the edge of the explosion for it not to be effective, but it survived. But still, the actual pacing of the film, the look of the film, all does come down to the editing. And Marsha Lucas was and is great. And but my next question to myself is that, do you think she'll be long remembered? I think amongst the community of actual film industry and hardcore Star Wars fans, she will be long remembered. I just don't think she had enough front and center to be recognized as a part of a major contribution to that film, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality of life. People, some come up, some people go down for, real reasons or not. But she did, in my eyes, in my ears, everything really was a big part of the whole Star Wars saga. And it is definitely a passing that is going to be felt by myself, for for significant reasons. And so that is the interviews for this time around. That is the show for this time. But please stick around very shortly. Look, subscribe to the channel, The Force Always. I'm here 3 or 4 times a week. This week has been a little bit less. But I am usually here about 3 or 4 times a week. I will be continuously updating about the Star Wars Celebration in LA ticketing saga. I shortly will be resending an email to them about, what's going on. I implore anyone out there to resend an email to them. From memory, it's Star Wars Celebration at readpop.com. Star Wars Celebration at readpop.com. Send in your email about, when, tickets can be next available, if they're going to create more tickets or sort of, vent your frustrations. It's now sort of about a month since, 3-4 weeks since the ticketing of that event had been released and sold out all in a matter of hours. It was an absolute fiasco. But please, send that to you, that particular email. I'm going to resend and really sort of be on them in ensuring that tickets can be available before anything else gets announced, like panel reservations. Because if you don't have a ticket and you're going for a panel reservation, which is a big part of the event, it's going to put a spanner in the works. So they need to sort of get their act together. So again, Star Wars Celebration at repop.com. I think that is the actual email from what I said last time. Send in the email, and that's it. But anyway, until next time, my friends, keep rocking.